a third-party presidential ticket in this year's election.
A third-party race, a third-party candidate, a viable option.
A third-party presidential run.
A third-party political group.
We need someone in the middle.
This is what the U.S. House of Representatives looks like today. Each blue dot represents a Democratic representative, and the red ones are Republicans. To Americans, this red, blue, almost 50-50 divide is the norm. In other countries, the picture looks a bit different. Here's what the National Assemblies of Germany, France, and Brazil look like. The governments of other democratic countries often have major representation from 5 or more different political parties. If you live in the United States, you've probably heard people reference the phrase, the lesser of two evils, when talking about who they are voting for president. The truth is, most Americans aren't happy with the options they're given to choose between. 50% of Republicans and 74% of Democrats are not satisfied with the people running for president in 2024. 63% of Americans in general think that a third party is needed. In this episode of What's Going On Here, we're going to look into some similarities and differences between the American two-party system and the multi-party system used by many democratic countries throughout the world. As you may already know, in the election of 1789, George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of the United States of America. At that time, there were no political parties yet, and Washington was famously against them. His wishes weren't respected for long. Washington served 2 terms and didn't run for a third in 1796. By that election, the country was already split into 2 parties, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. This marked the beginning of the American two-party system. Although the 2 major parties have changed over time, in almost every election, no third party has been able to gain significant voter share. The best performance by a third party was when President Theodore Roosevelt ran for a 3rd term with his new Bull Moose Party. But even then, this was more of like a split within the Republican Party. In recent years, the best performing third party has been the Libertarian Party. In 2016, its presidential candidate Gary Johnson was able to pull in 3% of the popular vote. For third parties, the 5% threshold is a very important goal. It's at that point that a party is able to qualify for federal campaign funds for the next election. This allows the government to match qualified campaign contributions, which gives smaller parties a huge boost. Picture this scenario. You've been prime minister for 16 years. Your party faces the general election and wins. You get the most votes out of any party, about 43%. But what's this? All of the other parties group up against you and you're fired? Your party is left with no positions in the government, not even Minister of Sports? This is exactly what happened in Fiji in 2022. Despite being the party with the most votes, Fiji First was left out of the governing coalition and was left with no cabinet positions. This was possible because in multi-party systems, oftentimes no one party wins a majority. Most of the time, parties have to group together and form a coalition to run the government. Major parties collaborate with mostly like-minded smaller parties and are oftentimes just more or less extreme versions of each other. For example, let's look at Germany again. Looking at their National Assembly, you can see that the 2 largest parties are the center-left Social Democratic Party and the center-right Christian Democratic Union. In this election, the SPD won the majority with 207 seats, while the CDU came in second with 152 seats. In order to form a government, these 2 major parties tried to collaborate with similar parties. The best options for the CDU are the conservative Christian Social Union and the far-right Alternative for Germany party. These 3 parties hold 275 seats, which is short of the 368 needed for a majority in the German National Assembly. The current governing coalition of Germany is composed of the SPD, the center-left Green Party, and the center-right Free Democratic Party. These parties negotiate which roles each will assume in the federal government. Currently, the German Chancellor is from the SPD, while the Vice Chancellor is from the Greens, and the Minister of Finance is from the FDP. Usually, the parties with higher vote share are able to hold more positions. If no majority coalition is achieved, the largest party or coalition can attempt to rule with a minority government. This is currently the situation in France, where the leading Renaissance Party was only able to form a coalition with the Democratic Movement and the Horizons parties. This gives them 251 seats, which is short of the 289 needed for a majority. Ruling with a minority government is possible, but it's much more difficult to pass legislation. It also leaves the ruling party vulnerable to a vote of no confidence, which is handled differently in each country, but almost always results in ousting the ruling government. In the United States, a candidate currently needs 270 Electoral College votes to win the presidency. Due to the American two-party system, no third party has won any electoral votes since 1968, when George Wallace secured 46 electoral votes with his American Independent Party. Throughout the 59 presidential elections the United States has held, in only 8 of them has a third party picked up any electoral votes at all. This essentially makes American elections a head-to-head battle. Unless there's a tie, which has only occurred once in 1800, there will always be a candidate with at least 270 electoral votes. The candidate who wins the presidency then gets to select whoever they want to sit on their cabinet. These selections need to be confirmed by the Senate, but they've only rejected 9 nominations ever. President-elects rarely reach across the aisle to fill cabinet positions, so administrations tend to be overwhelmingly composed of one party. Multi-party systems often use a system of representation known as proportional representation. In Germany, this is what a ballot looks like. Voters are able to vote for the individual they want to represent their constituency, kind of like a district, and also the party that they want to represent their state. If you look at this map of the 2021 German federal election, on the left you can see the constituencies that individual delegates won. On the right are the seats that each party won in each state. You'll probably notice that the yellow FDP party won no constituencies, but has the 4th most seats in the National Assembly. This is because the party vote allows the government to allocate a proportional number of seats to parties based on their support in a given state. In 2022, 30% of people in Massachusetts voted for a Republican candidate to represent them in the House of Representatives. Despite gaining a significant share of the votes, the election map of Massachusetts looks like this. Not a single elected representative is Republican. On the other hand, in Oklahoma, 31% of people voted for a Democrat, yet their map looks like this. The reason for this is that instead of proportional representation, the United States employs a winner-take-all strategy, where the winning party of a given constituency gets all the representation. This can leave significant portions of the population without representation where they need it most. In many ways, the two-party system still emulates the abundance of viewpoints found in multi-party systems. The United States has large, established factions within each of the major parties. A well-known faction for the Democrats is the Squad, which is a far-left group of minority and female representatives in the House. Similarly, the most outlandish Republican faction is the Trumpists, which is a group of congresspeople rallied together in support of former President Donald Trump. The two-party system attempts to slow extremism by forcing groups like these to play ball with other more established ideologies within each party. The size of each party forces them to try to appeal to wider audiences while maintaining the status quo. It also allows for quick changes in regulation once a party gains control of the government. This can be beneficial when the same party governs for multiple terms in a row, but is detrimental when the people in power change every election. The multi-party system gives more choice to the voter and offers greater representation for less popular ideologies. Although they're often unable to join ruling coalitions, multi-party systems are often criticized for giving extreme ideas a platform. This requirement to work together with other parties usually makes the government more consistent in regulation, but can hold a country back when quick change is needed. Thank you all for watching today. What do you think about the two-party system, and which system do you think is best? Let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos just like this one.